Hello guys, I'm Super Ron. Welcome back to the G Unit and welcome to episode 13 of my GBS Zero build. We're back over here at the sticker wall and we're on the Alfie and Max sponsored desk and we're carrying on pretty much from where we left off last episode. We were looking over the head, but I'd got stuck because I didn't have the tool to take out the valves. So I've been and done a buy. We've now got a valve spring compressor so we can strip this thing down and investigate what we've actually got. So a little bit of history on the head and where it came from. Cast your minds way back to 2008. I was driving home from billing in my red Astra in the corner and we had a bit of a problem and the cam belt came off, it slipped and bent all the valves. The valves have been up here on display in my offerings to the God of Speed for quite some time now. But at the time I needed a new head and this one came up for sale on one of the forums. It was all complete, valves had all just been rebuilt, even had the rocker cover, distributor, cams, everything was there, ready to go. It just had a fresh skim, so it was ready to fit straight on there. On the rocker cover, it actually said Dr. Vox turbo conversions. So I don't know if that's who done the machine work or if that's who's did the conversion in the car, but that's what it all came together. As you can see in the picture, he's got his phone number on there, way back from 2007, 2008, somewhere there. So he might still be in business, you never know. If he is, I've got your head here and he's going on the kit car. So I put it on the Astra and I ran it for a little while, but that was about the time I took the Astra off the road to start on the rear wheel drive conversion. So this head has just been sitting there all wrapped up on a shelf for probably the last 11 plus years. So today we're going to strip it down because I never actually opened anything up. I just put it straight on the Astra when I got it. So I can see it's got brand new valves, but I've got to see if they are oversized. Not that it makes much difference, but it'll be a nice little gain if it has. I can see all the huge porting and polishing that it's got and the polished chambers. But the most important thing that I need to find out today is if it has got upgraded valve springs. Because if they're just the standard ones, the amount I'm going to be revving it and the high lift cams, they're just not going to cut it. So now we've got the valve spring compressor tool, we can get the valves out and see what springs we've got. So let's have a look at that. So this was a perfectly good running and driving head when I took it off the Astra. But it has been sitting there for over a decade now. So I'm just going to give it a check over as well. I'm going to put some plugs in. I'm out of the Vauxhall game for a while, so I've just got these old Audi plugs that come out of one of our cars. And what we're just going to do, we're going to fill the chambers up with some brake cleaner and just check we've got no leaks and nothing seeping through. It should all be good. It's a good running, driving car, and we probably will lap the valves in. This is a good initial check just to fill the chambers up with brake cleaner and see if any leaks through. Well, I left them full up for about 5 minutes. Hard to see on the camera, but they are still full. But this one did start to drop. And if we look up the port, we've got a bit of brake cleaner flowing down. That's to be expected. This has been sitting here for 10 years, just sitting on the shelf. So the valves might need a little lap in, but all the others are all nice and dry. So 1 out of 16, I think that's pretty good going. While we fill up a brake cleaner here, I'll just give these a little scuff off with the trusty toothbrush, just to get it all nice and clean before we take it apart, and then carry on from there. And just with a little wipe down, it's amazing how bling these have come up. You can see how polished it is up in there. I've forgotten how much work had been done to this head. See, even in the combustion chambers, everything's been mirror finished in there as well. I've just taken the head off the mock-up engine to show you a bit of a comparison. Things we do for videos. But I've took the mock-up engine all apart, and you can see inside it's just kind of the factory finish, how they finish them off. We'll see just the main shape of it. Whereas in this one, you can see it's been taken out quite a lot, mirror polished right up. You can see there's a lot of marks and little indents. So I think this head has had a bit of a hard life. I'm not sure whether they've had a failure and lots of bits have gone in there, or a piston broke up or some rings or something, or whether it's just down to detonation. But for me, this will be no problem. That will all work nicely. One thing I did notice is there's a bit of a ridge that goes all the way around here. That's been machined in. You can see the milling marks that have been put in. But on this one, that's smooth all the way across, all the way to the head. But I do know on this one that it has been skimmed within an inch of its life. The casting here is nearly all the way through. And also when you look at the lobes above the exhaust, you can see they've actually been taken out on the last skim. Whereas on this one, we've still got the ridge there. So you can see how much has been skimmed off the head, whereas this one has still got the round tops and a ridge there. And this one has been skimmed right down to that lobe. So it's had a lot of work done on the inside, but there's a nice lot of meat on the head to skim down. And then you've just got the little welded bits that we spoke about last time. So I'm not sure whether that's down to something getting in there and causing a mess, or due to detonation and they just melded it up. But you can see a good one there. It just skimmed the head and they'd skimmed over those welds, so it's all nice and smooth. So it is level and it doesn't protrude. But what I think I will do is just take them down just a bit flat, just to make sure, and it makes everything just a little bit more smoother. I've also got this grotty old thing, which is a GM head, which came with one of the engines. And as you can see, it hasn't got the COSCAST plaque. Like these ones have got it above the exhaust port. The GM ones have not. So I've got a genuine COSCAST head here. And I'm really happy with how well that is blinged up. See how shiny the valves are there. Absolute bling bling. So I think the next thing to do is to start taking the valves out and see what we've got. So for those that don't know, what we're trying to get to is on the top of the valve. That's the end of the valve there. We've got the retainers, and there's a couple of little collets just in there. And what this tool does is you can put it in there, push down, and then that compresses a spring but kicks the valve up and lets you take those collets out. A problem with C20XE engines and a couple of the Vauxhall ones is because they're so deep in there, this actually bottoms out on the head before you can compress the valve. So what people normally do is just cut these off, put longer ones on, so this is a lot longer, and that clears the casting of the head. So I'll have a little look. I think I might get involved and completely over-engineer something that doesn't even need to be done. But we'll get that in so we can get these in and release the valves. So the plan is I've just sliced this off, cut the welds off that, so this is now free. And I found this little offcut, which is actually from our alternator bracket, that fits in there perfectly, and that's the same thickness as this. So that sits in there nicely. And that weld on and on and on, and we've got an extended valve spring compressor tool. So let's go and get Mr. Mig. I think the correct term is that ain't going anywhere. And now we can get right down to the valve, right in there, loads of clearance to the head. So let's pop these out. So here's the first valve out. All came out nice and easy with the new tool. Valve springs and the collets. And how these work, these collets sit in these grooves like that. The other one on top. And this seat has actually got a tapered hole in it. So when the spring pushes up onto it, that's what holds it all together. So that's why you need good valve springs, because if these bounce or aren't stiff enough, on high revolutions, the valve can actually pop out. These come out and the valve can hit the piston. So this is actually the valve that was leaking slightly. I don't know if we can see, it's not too bad, just got maybe a little bit on this side, but there's nothing really there. A little lap in and that will all be good as new. But the big question is about these valve springs, the whole reason for taking apart, and good news, we've got Kent Cam's valve springs. It's actually advertised as Piper, but these will do, so I'll just do a little Google and see what the rates are on them. They're nice and stiff, so that'll do nicely. So now we've just got 15 more to do. So when you're taking the valves out, it's essential that you make sure they stay in the same hole that they came out of, because these have all been lapped in. If you're doing a full machine job and everything's being renewed, it doesn't matter that much. But as these have all been lapped into their individual seats, they've got to stay where they are. So luckily, I've just found this, I don't know if it's a shoebox or something, but it's got all these circles on the top, so I can mark out and put each one where it needs to be, so I know it's the right way around for when it all goes back into the head. So I'll drill some holes so we can just pop the valves in and they'll sit in there nicely and won't get lost, or if anything gets knocked over, they won't get messed up. The springs are all the same, so it doesn't matter if they get mixed up, but I will keep them in their same places just to keep it all neat and tidy. So let's get on with that. Like I say, organisation is key. So we've got our little setup, got cambelt end, dizzy end, so we know where we are. We've got the valves in their little circle. Lucky I found this box, it couldn't be more perfect. So I've just labelled all the other valves: inlet 1, inlet 2, inlet 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and exhaust 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'm glad I'm doing it on this and not on my Audi, because that's 5 valves per cylinder on a V8, so I've actually got 40 valves on that. So quite pleased that I've only got 16 to do here. So let's get all these out. And there's all 16 valves out with all their springs and caps. You can see it's really nice and tidy in there as well. The amount of work that's been done down the ports really have been opened up a lot. For comparing, here's the standard head. They just kind of machined just around the edge. This one, see, it's all been done all the way down. They've also had the valve guides trimmed down to aid flow as well. Normally they stick up just with a square end, like in the standard one. But these have been all smoothed off with the shape of the port. I had a bit of trouble getting a few of the exhaust valves out of the guide. They're a bit stiff in there, but they all managed to cut off. So it's a case of cleaning everything up and seeing what we've actually got. Right, so you saw me do a bit of investigation there. I needed data to see what was standard and what was uprated in the new head. So I had this old GM block that I thought I'd just strip down because I knew all this was standard sizes and I could compare one to the other. So I took an inlet and exhaust valve out, again with the springs and everything. As you can see, this one looks like it's been stored at the bottom of a river. I'm not sure where this head came from. I think someone might have chucked it in with something, but I don't think it was one of mine because I've never had any GM heads. But I've put it all together and had a good measure up. So the two on the left here are from the GM head and the two on the right are from my COSCAST head. It looks like I've measured the valves up and the inlets are the same. They're both 33 millimeters, but the exhaust valves are actually bigger on my head. They're plus 1 millimeters. So I've got 29 mil face on the GM head and mine are 30. And also the valve springs, the Kent Cams ones, are actually a few millimeters higher as well. It looks like the caps on the top are the same and the collets at the end are the same, so they're all just factory Vauxhall items, but the springs are definitely quite a bit taller and the exhaust valves are quite a bit bigger as well. So the inlets are in fact the same, but they are new valves. You can see they're all shiny and new along there. So with the upgraded valve springs, I think we can put this back together happy. So I'm going to lap it all in. At least I know now what I've actually got. It didn't leak any oil or smoke at all, but I think as I've got to this stage, I will put new valve stem seals in it, so I don't have to worry about it again, and it'll just be one more job done. Looking more and more at this head, when I look at these recesses here, you can see they've actually been machined in all the way round. So I'm not quite sure why, because this one is skimmed the same amount, what I spoke about earlier, with this not being skimmed into, but this hasn't got a recess anywhere. So it's like on this one, it's actually been milled in. So I don't know if that's someone playing with compression ratios or not sure, whether it opened up the chamber. It's a bit of a mystery. If you have any ideas, let me know in the comments. But I'm happy to put this head back together. I'm going to smooth out these welds and put it all back together as it is. And I think we're going to make really good power. It's got really free flowing ports. The inlets are huge down in there where they've bored them all out. And they have done the exhaust as well. But with all the soot, you can't really see. I've kind of cleaned out this one a bit, and that's been done to the same standard as the inlets. So I think we're going to have really good flow. As we're up at the top end, I thought we'd have a look at the cams that I've got for this as well. These are the ones, they're SBD cams. I got them off eBay used. These at the bottom are standard red top cams. These are just the normal coil pack one without a dizzy end on it. But the competition ones have no end at all. So they have no cam sensor output. But all that was on the end, I don't know if you can see, was SBD 230 and SBD 220. So I got in touch with SBD when I bought them, and they gave me loads of information, all the specs of them, and they're actually discontinued cams now, but on their website you can find all the old specs. And these are actually SM16V2, 230 is the inlet and the 220 is the exhaust. They're pretty much the biggest cams you can run on hydraulic lifters. They've got a duration of 304 degrees on the inlet and 298 on the exhaust, and max lift of 11.4 millimeters on the inlet and 10.6 on the exhaust. So they'll work nicely with the Kent Cam springs and the big valves and everything. If I go any bigger, I'd have to go to solid lifters, and I don't really want to get involved in that. I just want to get in something, use it, and not have to keep adjusting it. So I'll need to get a set of INA lifters for this, because I sold mine a long time ago, but luckily they've come down in price a long way since I was buying them. You can get a full set of genuine lifters now for about 90 quid. So they were well over 200 when I was looking. So I think I'm at the point where I'm going to have to order a gasket set for this engine now. I'm going to need the valve stem seals before I put the valves back in, and ultimately I'm going to need a full gasket set, top to bottom, sump, head, rocker cover, the cam seals, the crank seals, the thermostat, the whole lot, for when this all goes back together when the crank gets back to me. So when I was on the forums, I used to use Steve Boy Slim or Jav off MigWeb. They used to get all my gaskets because I want to use genuine stuff. I don't want to mess around with cheap pattern rubbish and just have it leak on the first day. So I'm going to have a look around because I've been out the game for a little while now. So I need to find out where the best source for genuine gaskets are. So if you have a source, then just let me know in the comments of the best place to go, or whether just to have a look on eBay at all the genuine stuff. But once we get them in, we can start chucking this all back together. But I'm happy that we've took it apart. We've established a few things for definite now, that we've got oversized exhaust valves, we've got upgraded springs, and everything can go back together really nicely. It's probably been a bit of a short episode, and maybe it could have been episode 12.5 carrying on from the engine building video last week, but I've got another episode out for you and it's going to establish as episode 13, so I'm going to count it. So I hope you still enjoyed it, and making the valve spring compressor, modifying that to fit the Vauxhall head. So we've got this in the cupboard now for whenever we need it in the future. So make sure you like and subscribe, carry on watching, but until next time, make sure you have fun.